Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Meat Man, and today we have two very special guests, RoseKaedae and STRCoolerSimp, two very prolific data miners and curators of information in the Monster Hunter community, specifically for Monster Hunter Wilds. This interview will be spoiler-free, so don't worry, and they will be deep diving into exactly how they got into the position that they are in, what they do, and maybe even a little bit of confirmation and deconfirmation of rumors going around in the Monster Hunter community. These are the questions that I will be asking them. Some of them are to get to know them a little bit better, and then some of them are to dive a little bit into those rumors. Timestamps will be provided, but I ask that you do take the time to listen to them and listen to how, they came about doing this. These are some underrated figures in the community. I hope you guys enjoy. STR, how do you feel about introducing yourself? How and when did you get into the business of data mining and sharing info? What inspired you to do this? How did you gain the influence you have? And of course, share only what you feel comfortable with.
This requires a little bit of background. So, back in the day, I was nobody. I was not even interacting with the community. But, Wilds trailers, they came out. I was excited, and the beta came out. I played the shit out of that. And a little bit later, the beta shut down, whatever. I was like, man, I wish I could play this again. And then there was that whole thing going on where apparently there was a little method to keep playing the beta after it ended. And so I was kind of going through with that, figuring that out. I was playing the beta a bit more. And then, I go on Reddit a little bit. I see rumors of leaks coming out for Wilds, and I'm like, man. So I go take a look at them. I see all these monsters that are coming. I'm like, man, I'm going crazy over it. Blanganga's coming. Fucking Lagiacris is coming. All these guys are coming. And I'm like, man. And I'm thinking to myself now, I gotta get in on this. If someone is going to keep doing this, it's going to be me. No one else is going to come out on top. I'm going to be the one up there. And so I kind of start trying to figure out how to go about this and doing shit ton of Googling for a week, trying to figure out everything. And eventually I did figure out everything. And I don't know how to put this. I was kind of just looking at random shit. I figured out, Poogie was coming and all that and whatever. But I was gatekeeping it all. I was not telling anyone about this except for one or two people, because I thought gatekeeping would make me a cool guy.
Yeah, keep the info close to your chest.
Exactly. I can't tell anyone about this. And then a little bit later, because I decided I'm just not gonna look at this one file. I ended up opening it, and apparently that one thing had all the audio with every cutscene in the game. So I listened to the whole story in 2 hours. It's pretty crazy, honestly. The first thing I listened to, the end cutscene where Fabius is talking about Zoshia and the fucking Guardians and everything like that. Yeah, that was the first thing I listened to, and I was going nuts. I thought Equal Dragon Weapon was coming. I thought it was over for the series. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Monster Hunter was dead when I first heard that.
What is this sci-fi bullshit I'm listening to?
Dude, I thought the guy I was listening to with it, he was like, all the old heads are gonna go fucking crazy over it. And so that was the moment I realized, I can't keep gatekeeping this kind of stuff. That was the awakening. And so at first I just shared it in a little server called Pew Pew Dojo, if you heard of it. Maybe?
No, I haven't actually.
No, okay. Basically, it's that one server that has where some of the Frontier stuff is, if you want to play Frontier again or whatever. And that's what I joined it for at first, and then I saw they had a spoiler channel, and so I decided to just post the whole story there. And then I made that my first Reddit post on the leak sub, and it was just the whole story. And some people believed me, a lot of people didn't. There's a lot of people complaining. It was kind of weird. It's this random guy is coming out talking about artificial monsters and whatever. You probably wouldn't believe it either, honestly.
dropped in a ooth nuke and you were like a veritable nobody.
Nobody's gonna believe this, and you know, I was still gatekeeping a little bit. I wasn't sharing any of the audio with that many people until eventually I just did, because people wanted to listen to it and I didn't want anyone else saying it was fake, so that way I could not ruin my reputation like in my first post. And then I guess that's just how things started, and then now I am here.
And you're like established now, and like you're
I don't
known.
know how that happened.
Okay.
Actually, a little bit. I did share it with Rose before I shared it with everyone else, because I remember Rose was asking for them. I was like, fine, because she made some like random cool posts with everything. But I knew some of the shit in there was wrong because of what I just listened to.
Oh, okay.
And then, right, and you know what she did? She didn't write my name in the post, and she was like #1 opposition. I was going crazy. Turns out it was a mistake. Now all is well. Now it's whatever, you know.
So you like stumbled into this little sub community, and you had even like an adversarial relationship at first with some of the other figures. And like your credibility was questioned and all these different things, but you were like ground zero for digging out the cutscene audio and all these crazy things that we now know like everything about the game, but as far as like story and everything goes. But that's definitely interesting, man. Like how you just were like, you know what, I can't wait anymore. I want to get in and data mine and get good at this. That's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool.
I want everything now, immediately.
Yeah.
I'm not patient, in any way.
And you know, for clarification's sake, once again to clear up things, you guys actually encourage actively not to share to the main subs and things like that, or on Twitter. Like you guys try to keep it a little bit tighter as to avoid spoiling the community at large.
The people who do that are like fucking stupid. No, I don't like those people.
Yeah, definitely problematic, and drags you guys down a little bit too, because people get mad that they got spoiled. They want to blame data miners, you know, and lump you guys in with the dreaded word leakers.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're blaming the wrong people.
Yeah. It's like I like the way you worded it in an answer for another question we had, that it's definitely something worth talking about. Like it's a good, fun way to generate hype and a topic of discussion for people that like seeing leaks and spoilers and delving into the nitty-gritty early.
But I think like when you read them, you shouldn't be using them as like argument points or anything. Because literally anything could change. Anything could happen, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things I ask you to give clarity on, and you gave me some good info on. I'm gonna have you elaborate on it a little bit more, but there's so many rumors and people that are quote unquote insiders sharing information from the leak sub as like gospel, and some of it's not even like confirmed by the actual like data miners. You know, it's just theory and conjecture. More on that later. Meanwhile, I asked the same question I asked STR to Rose, and she responded, "Howdy, I go by Rose. I am a severely autistic nerd that loves dinosaurs, dragons, speculative evolution, and that all led to me getting into Monster Hunter back in 2009 with Freedom 2. I now have over 20,000 hours in the series and have played every mainline title at least a little bit, including Frontier pre-shutdown via the Taiwan servers on both PC and PS4, and having a Japanese 3DS to play the old games before localization to the West. I still have that and my copies of 3G, 4G, Cross, and Double Cross. For the Western audience, that will be 3U, 4U, Gen, and Generations Ultimate. I am a huge 3rd Gen shill, as I saw Try's new monsters when it was new in Japan, and that's what made me get into Freedom 2 and a PSP for my 11th birthday, and a Wii plus Try the next year for my birthday once it came out to the West. I was smitten by Legiacrus, Deviljho, Alatreon, and Cetus right away, and Try's music is especially special and nostalgic to me. And that's some fun background on Rose. As you can see, she's been a long-standing fan to the series, but here's an interesting part about her current situation within the data mining and leaking community. I'm not much of an actual data miner myself, at least for the most recent titles, but I've always actively looked through actual mines by other people and gotten in touch with them to discuss and offer my thoughts, and 20,000 hours worth of autistic memory and info retention perspective, as well as compiling data and making it clear to read and understand for others. It appears that Rose is quite a curator of the information, which is why she is really well known amongst the community, even though it seems like she's not doing many data mines as of late. I've actually been discussing and doing stuff with data mines since Monster Hunter Double Cross, when there was data mines in the game's demo for its event quests, which showed its roster early. I did lots of analysis of stuff like the league list for Base World that had the game's monsters around fall of 2017 and speculating on which each thing was, looking at the weapons trees for Iceborne that were shown in a V-Jump video, and predicting Yangaruga for Iceborne off of that, as well as the infamous cookie leak that had Zinogre's world icon like several months ahead of Iceborne's release on some cookies, and vehemently defending that it was legit and real, despite a lot of people thinking, no way could Zinogre be an Iceborne, it's too anime for a realistic Monster Hunter game. I also find this extra bit pretty interesting that the data miners at the time thought that there's no way Garuga could be there without Yankutku, and that Zeno and Zora would actually be in Master Rank. I think that's actually a funny little tidbit of history. I got involved with Monster Hunter Wilds leaks around the OBT and discussing it with people, and made a big compilation of everything that we knew at that point together for the ease of access. When writing the post, Reddit formatting messed up, and the credit that I gave to STR in regards to STRCoolerSimp and other users like the Nade got removed. Then I fixed it very quickly upon noticing the issue, though STR may have DM'd them asking for credit, which was confusing to her since she did, but then she saw that it was a problem with the formatting. By happenstance, I was looking around in servers I was in for Monster Hunter stuff to discuss and share, and I had joined Pew Pew Dojo years prior. I went looking there for what discussion there was, and happened to find STR discussing me being an op, and took the time to introduce myself and clear up the mix-up and discuss things there. We basically carved out a little niche community. She then recalls how she had disagreements with the owners and their attitudes towards Monster Hunter and potentially other things as well towards other people. Some very unfortunate, it seems like toxic behavior. But aside from that, that was the time I started getting a bit of a following on the Leaks Reddit for compiling info and making long and detailed posts with the information and a generally consistently positive voice amongst the negativity that was going on. At some point, Rathalos Watch began taking my stuff, basically, and would always delete my posts and his comments asking for credit or linking back to the Leaks subreddit. I saw he was in the same server as us by chance and called him out for being a parasite, which prompted a massive argument, which he never involved himself in. Some of his fans in the server and people who just didn't like me because I'm not a world hater jumped on me and the others. That led to us forming our own server after discussing with one of the admins the situation, and that sort of led to everything else. I basically got where I got through consistency, positivity, and detail, as well as, she neglected to mention this, but it seems some unfortunate encounters as well. Now, to dive back into Rathalos Watch, Rathalos Watch will be brought up a couple more times throughout the course of this video. They kind of have an adversarial relationship with Rathalos Watch, but then again, Rathalos Watch is, I'm not going to go too far into detail, but he's been known to pick fights with people across the community. Other than that, I'm not going to dive deep into Rathalos Watch. He just plays a very, very minor role in these stories. However, if you are interested in looking into Rathalos Watch, I do have to warn you that he puts actual data mined spoilers and leaks in his titles and thumbnails, so if you want to avoid being spoiled for future content in Monster Hunter Wilds, I would avoid looking him up directly on YouTube. Back to Rose, I was contacted by multiple inside sources at Capcom at the time due to the consistency in my posts and being sort of the figurehead of the leaks subreddit, as I was seen as a good source for communicating info. I had a personal crusade about Legiacris and Sregios being in the base game, which I will get into later, and basically I was never wrong on that. They were base game monsters as of the data in the OBT and the leaks we had. It's just that we had been missing important info and context that we couldn't have known without an inside source until the last moment. This point is actually pretty interesting. This is actually a point that STR and Rose actually seem to be in disagreement about. It seems even in the leaks community, there is division in, the conclusivity of actual evidence or things that could have possibly been in the real game or pushed out to TUs. We'll get into that later, but I found that to be an interesting detail. In total, I got into contact with 3 total people with inside info, at least 2 of which were Capcom employees working on localization on crunch time, and the other having their own contact that gets them info. So I hear a bit about the title update slightly early and communicate what I can from that when it happens. The info I was given by them has been pretty consistently correct, but there was a few times where they mixed in their own ideas and speculation and didn't clarify at first, so there was a few misconceptions early on. Now the next question was, why Monster Hunter specifically? Surely your talents could be potentially used for other games or series. STR jokingly said, other games, no such thing. I don't consider myself like a die-hard Monster Hunter fan, but I'm still passionate about the series, and Wilds was honestly the only game I was anticipating, especially after the betas, along with the fact that the industry was not putting out exactly amazing titles other than maybe SOTE. I could theoretically learn how to mine other games, but that means I have to learn a whole other mining process, and I don't want to do that. Also, I want to keep my Wilds hopium alive and learn about upcoming content without having to wait for Capcom to talk about it every blue moon and die of boredom. Basically, I'm not interested in learning about other content in other games, and I'm lazy. Rose said, I just really like Monster Hunter. I grew up always loving dinosaurs, dragons, monsters, nature, and wildlife. I was watching Jurassic Park, Walking with Dinosaurs, Walking with Beasts. Fun fact, Walking with is a direct inspiration for Monster Hunter. There's a shot lifted right out of Walking with Beasts in Monster Hunter 1's intro, where the Velociprey chased the Kelby and Aptonoth over the camera. That's directly from the scene in Walking with Beasts, where saber-toothed cats hunt. I'ma be real, I have no idea how to pronounce that, but you can see it on the screen. In a huge open plain that looks like exactly the same minus the big ass wyvern. The Godzilla movies, all that stuff. Monster Hunter just clicks with me on a deeply fundamental level, and its gameplay is one I enjoy a lot too. I got very into the games I play, and I like games that give me a lot to do. I never have had a lot of money, so long games that I can replay a lot for a long time were always my favorites. Monster Hunter just hits everything right for me. Its creature designs are amazing too. The best in the industry, easily. Even my least favorite main series game I've actively played, Rise, I still put 400 plus hours in base Switch release version just because it was Monster Hunter. Even if I dislike a Monster Hunter game, I'll still get my money's worth out of it. Rise absolutely turned it around with Sunbreak though, which was perfect, and I have over 1k hours in that now. I do also love other games, and I do split my time and talents with one other series in particular, the Carnivores games, which were also part of my stepping stone into Monster Hunter, which are dinosaur hunting games set on an alien planet. Ukraine games released in the late 90s and early 2000s. I got into those as a young kid when I was like 3 and could just function with a computer, and that has been my main home community. I actively have been working on various mods and total conversion games made in that engine for a long time. Shameless plug here for my mods, Carnivores Phantasmagoria and Jurassic Park Revolution on ModDB. I have included that in the description, by the way, if you want to actually check that out. Monster Hunter is special, though. My next question, question 3, says the leaks have been a very hot topic since the beta and have even led to some forms of discourse of sorts in the community. Was this surprising to you? And do you have any potential misconceptions or narratives you want to clear up or bring clarity to? STR first ruminates the mainstreamification of Wilds leaks and its consequences. I think it becoming a full topic of discussion within the community was bound to happen, obviously, because that happens with like every game ever that has leaks. But the discourse coming from it is definitely surprising. I was only expecting some arguments here and there, but I think everything was very overblown. Here is what Rose had to say about the question. This is the first time they've ever been so mainstream, so to say, especially with how actively detailed they were. Capcom leaving the whole ass game dialogue in the files and file references to the entire monster list and like 75% of the weapons and armors is such a gigantic blunder on their part for sure, but also gave us a unique glimpse into the game's development. The OBT build seems to have been from either late 2023 or early 2024, as there were a lot of differences with the final game, as well as incomplete stuff. I can get into those a little bit later. As soon as I heard the story, I knew it would be rather divisive, but I feel it honestly went over pretty well given that they basically made the equal dragon weapon remade and reimagined, and way better for the actual context of the series. I hate the original Equal Dragon weapon. They made it canon via Zoshia and stuff like the Ancient Civilization and Artificial Monsters, and I knew people would bitch about the roster size and other stuff given that I've been here for a long time, but it's honestly not been this bad before. Time is a flat circle though. People have been saying Monster Hunter is ruined, Monster Hunter is too easy, since Monster Hunter Freedom Unite and Try, it always happens. It's just never been as constant and oppressive. Funny enough, she mentions that she doesn't know that I'm recording for my next video that's going to be about a video that actually states just that, where a guy who was a speedrunner in 2nd gen actually disliked 3rd gen games, and well, he made a video called Monster Hunter Sucks Now. I think in general though, we should give the devs a bit more empathy. They did not want to release the game how they did on launch. There was internal talks that showed the game was supposed to release in December 2024, which would have been even worse. They fought for 2 months extra and had to put employees on crunch time due to the higher-ups at Capcom. Again, that's how I got inside info. You can see stuff like the world, endemic life, the detail put into each monster, especially Legiacrus, and all the care and love to know how much Tokeda and his team love Monster Hunter and want to please the fans, and their response to the backlash while improving the game and being transparent is great so far. There are issues, yes, but we could have had it so much worse. That is true, and as far as detail-oriented goes, they've actually got cycled. The birds can go out and grab food for their babies and go feed their young, and like they have a whole little cycle going. Whether you like that stuff or care about it, she's right as far as like detail orientation and endemic life goes. Question 4, I decided to somewhat check the pulse of, how people were reacting to them as figures in the like leaks community of Monster Hunter. And so I asked, people have the tendency to garner misplaced anger at things that can be associated with what has frustrated them. Have you ever received any backlash and criticism from people that have been spoiled, even though it was not your fault? To my knowledge, the Monster Hunter Leaks subreddit, as well as Rose and STR personally, they don't condone spoilers. They try to make sure that leaks aren't posted on like main subs and out in real public areas. However, it's not like they can control just anyone being able to walk in, take pictures, and share it with their buddies, or put it on YouTube with titles and thumbnails, things like that. STR answered, I haven't gotten anything specifically, but there was the whole thing where Reddit was recommending the leak sub to people, and honestly, that wasn't really my problem. Although people definitely use the word leaker too loosely, I've seen people blame leakers on them being spoiled, even though me and Rose and the other gang have constantly been against randomly bringing up leaks on Twitter or the main MH subs where people don't want to be spoiled. People need to start blaming the people reading the leaks, Twitter users specifically, and dumb YouTubers who put leaks in their thumbnails. Twitter users make me question everything I know. They've been making random shit up sometimes, I swear. Separate the artist from the audience. A funny little play on the separate art from the artist.
Because of all these people blaming the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm a villain a little bit. Like people think, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, being blamed for things that aren't your fault, misplaced anger, things like that.
But also like the community in general, right? This is actually something kind of serious. I think a lot of them are liars, all right? Like we got people claiming that a couple of creators claiming like they don't read leaks, but before the game released, they released a video about how they think Arkveld is artificial. Literally like quite a bit after we learned that about the Guardians and stuff. And I'm like they can't be real. Like I think.
Okay. So you kind of want to allege that during the speculations and theories, there were content creators that were coming forth and being like, we're speculating that this is what's going to be in, this is no spoilers. We haven't looked at the leaks, but they're saying things that are a little bit too close to the leaks. Okay. I think you would definitely be able to pinpoint that a little bit better than most people would as the person who dug up everything, but it's hard to really like prove it or completely allege that. But it's I can see where you would feel like, oh, these guys are lying.
Suspicious.
Yeah, it's really suspicious. Okay.
There was also this one guy on Twitter. He knows who he is. He he was like pissed about some random thing, and out of nowhere he just posts the Legiacris armor that was leaked, like for no reason. Like I don't know what was up with him during that.
That's really odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another aspect of content creation is you have content creators that have actual leaks and spoilers in their thumbnails and titles.
There's
further souring the community sentiment against you guys.
Mm-hmm. Like, so you know the whole like little Chinese data mining group type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there was this point in time where like they knew who I was a little bit before, and so I was able to like, they invited me into the big group chat that they have. It's like 600 people in there, and I was like telling people about it, and I was up there in like Wrathwillis Watch's server, and I was talking about it, and this guy, he's like, "You think you're the shit for that? Like, you think you're cool for that?" And then he was like, and then he wanted to get into it. Right, because like who doesn't want to talk to these guys? You know, like they're pretty lit. But I was trying to explain to him like, you can't join this because one, you need a Chinese like state ID, which like don't ask how I even got an account there. You know, I just know a guy, right? They knew me. And this guy was like, you know, I'll pay him to make me an account, whatever. And I just had to tell him like just straight up like they don't like him there. Like they hate him. Like they really don't. Because there's another guy in China who's like similar to him, where they're like leeching off of that group. It's kind of silly. He was actually the guy who originally posted that, you know, the little August leak from that one like Capcom employee guy with like the images of the monsters and whatever. Yeah, it was that guy who was leeching off of that group.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Rose answered, "While I've done my absolute best to prevent people from being spoiled that don't want to be, and I do my best to respect people's wishes about being spoiled, I have heard my posts have been recommended to people, and I started avoiding using monster names in post titles if I could. There was a time related to spoilers that I got harassed by 4chan. Rose then recounts a time where Wrathwillis Watch apparently got a hold of some leaks that were posted in a private Discord server, and posted it on the Reddit subs as well as other places in order to spoil people, and blamed it explicitly on RoseKaedae and STRCoolerSimp in order to drag them through the mud. It seems all of this has been scrubbed from Reddit, so I don't have any proof on hand, but I'm sure if you took time and messaged them on Reddit or Discord, they would be willing to corroborate this with some evidence." She says around that time, 4chan users took that chance to basically jump into the leak subreddit and harass her, to the point where she felt like she should actually leave. But she realized that it would be a victory for the opposition. She decided to stick it out. She went on to say, "Aside from that, I think I've mostly avoided having issues with people over spoiling them specifically. But quite a few people get fed up of me being positive towards the game, and I eventually start blocking people that I found just to be extremely annoying or arguing from a place of bad faith. So I do have a little dedicated group of haters that follow me just to downvote my stuff. The main subreddit did not respond well to one time I wrote a post about how the community state sucks, and it's sitting at 0 votes there right now." To kind of lighten the mood, the 5th question was, "What is your favorite Monster Hunter game, Monster, and Monster Hunter memory?" STR answered, "World and Iceborne, after all the TUs released, was my first, and it was incredible when I first played it, so it still holds a place in my heart. Shout out to my cousin who showed me the cool Teroth Siege and other stuff. You're the GOAT. Favorite monster is either regular Valstrax or Scorned Magnum Aloe. They look very cool to me." Awesome choices, dude. Favorite Monster Hunter memory is, like I mentioned before, my cousin first showing me gameplay, and also when I met a guy IRL who's been playing since 2004. Rose answered, "This is a complicated question for someone as autistic as me. Monster Hunter Tri/3 is the most special to me, and the one I think of the most in what I'd love to see recaptured in the series, but it's not my favorite. My favorite game has to be Iceborne right now, as I put the most time into that of any game in the series, about 4,100 hours into Worldborn, of which almost 3,900 is just my main save on PS4/5. I think Wilds is the best base game of the series and hits almost everything just right for me. It just needs more stuff to be as good as Iceborne or Sunbreak, and with the expansion I think Wilds will easily be the best of the entire series and my favorite game. I love the game to death, and Legaicrus and Seregios being in, and taking a break after launch plus TU1 has reinvigorated my enjoyment for the game a lot. Hands off the keyboards, subjectivity is implied, you guys. But my favorite monster is a hard tie between Alatreon and Legaicrus. For a long time it was Bloodbath Diablos, but fighting Alatreon and Iceborne made it shoot up. I always liked Ala and its music and gear. The Greatsword is my favorite Greatsword design of the series, and Greatsword is my alternative main, along with Chargeblade and Insect Glaive. It took me 4.5 hours of attempts on launch night to beat it. Once I beat it though, I then immediately farmed all 14 weapons and its full set in single continuous basically 24-hour session. Just going and going and going until I got everything. I fought it with only a Kinsect, shameless plug to my YouTube channel, pretty much all 14 weapons. I just love it to death. Eschaton Judgment was unironically the largest mass skill issue in the community I've ever seen. It's not that bad, at least solo. She's not wrong. I think element scaling in multiplayer was scuffed, but that's more of a Monster Hunter problem with element being bad for most weapons, and it took until Sunbreak to really fix that. Also, not completely wrong. There was also some shit where they actually changed elemental hit zone values on weapons specifically for that fight, and they didn't actually tell anybody that. So there's a little bit more fuckery going on than even just elements being bad. Legaicrus is just super special to me. It was one of the first monsters I saw before I got into the games. Its music is amazing, and its implementation in Try and its intro. I had my personal autism quest with Lagia and Seregios being in Wilds and being in the base game. I'll forever maintain I was right, but that we couldn't know the full info. And then, just everything came together with the Wilds version. The remix of both the OG Deserted Island theme and To One With Life, the underwater segment, how top tier his gear is, how genuinely hard he is to fight, especially tempered, and the Raging Brachii-like structure are all incredible and feel like they were made for me specifically, and it genuinely made me cry in joy. My favorite memory in Monster Hunter is hard to say. I love so many. Beating Alatreon for the first time, beating Fatalis for the first time in Iceborne, first time fighting Legaicrus in Wilds and it being perfect, Bloodbath Diablos for the first time and getting annihilated by the final phase and its amazing sound effects and music, and only winning by the skin of my teeth, being stunned by the glow up to Raging Brachii for the first time, getting a perfect Relic Chargeblade in 4U with 1224 raw, the best sharpness +1 pattern, 3 slots, paralysis with the Cetus model, and orange glow to match the para, soloing Gogmazios in 4U for the first time, seeing Monster Hunter Cross's reveal and seeing Glavenus, who is another one of my top favorites, as an awesome dinosaur flagship, the reveal of Espinas for a Sunbreak, but I think it might just have to be hearing Cetus' theme for the first time. Cetus' second theme is the first music for Monster Hunter I ever listened to, before I got into the games myself, and it's part of what got me into it, and it was almost genuinely like a religious experience, and that is sort of the turning point of my life. Not to mention all the people I've met because of Monster Hunter as well, all the times I've spent with my friends, which I have too many to list. Monster Hunter is just peak. Question 6 was, how has your experience as a data miner influenced your enjoyment of the games and your participation with the MH community at large?
Okay, so I did say, with actually playing the game, it didn't influence a whole lot. I was kind of excited to see what I was even talking about before, because like reading stuff and actually like experiencing it are very different things. And so, I was going into the game and I think I was expecting the game to be a little bit cooler, but kind of let me down a little bit, but it was whatever.
The expectations, man, they'll bite you.
Yeah. I think honestly the game, it's a good game, but I can't like it. Like I just can't. Like I mainly just because of like the whole performance stuff, because like I don't want to have to deal with all these random settings and frame gen and all that. I think that sucks. I think it's stupid. But
true, they really bungled that for the PC audience for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, but I think it's not like a bad game. It's just I don't know, it's a little bit disappointing to me.
It's a little less than what you wanted, and even further soured by the fact that you're having to deal with performance issues.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That checks out. Rose answered, it made the wait for Laggy infinitely worse. I watched the MH3 intro and listened to the one with Life every single day from the leak of Legaicrus until he was finally shown at the TU1 preview, and it felt surreal. but it made the payoff even more worth it. I think Lagiacrus is genuinely perfection, and Tokuda did everything right with it, and knew how special it was, both to himself and fans of the series. It was also very surreal seeing stuff that I had just in my head the entire time, imagining it for the real game. I must have put 200 plus hours discussing, writing, and speculating the game before launch, so seeing it really take shape and manifest was a special experience, and it feels pretty enlightening. I've noticed a lot of people who have actively followed leaks and data mines have been more positive on the game in general, and their complaints are more about wanting the game to improve in good faith, rather than wanting it to fail. In Jurassic Park 3, Alan Grant says, "There is no force on earth or heaven that will get me on that island." Replace the last part with, "will get me to not love Monster Hunter." Nothing naysayers or doomers or whatever will say will ever get me to not like the games. Monster Hunter is something that isn't just a game to me. They're amazing experiences that mean more than money to me. There's no monetary or material value on the games to me. They transcend being games. It's like the old MH saying I used to see way back in the day. It's not just a game, it's a way of life. I think the MH community can be great in an inviting place, but the negativity of the internet and both the entitlement of people and lack of sympathy or empathy for others has been heartbreaking, and it sucks seeing my friends want to distance themselves from it as of late, as I know it can be better. Now the rest of these questions we get into speculation and deconfirmation. None of it has to do with spoilers, so feel free to watch if you wish. The first question, question 7, I have heard that things like the Gathering Hub and HR Zoshia were actually planned to be in Title Update 1 the whole time, and that it was not actually the result of the game being unfinished. Is this true, and if so, how do we know that? What do you think of that as an intentional content rollout choice if it was true? Do you know if Capcom thought it was a good idea? STR says, "This I'm also unsure about, but I think the Gathering Hub was from its stage ID existing, and some of the data for the activities for it were there, like barrel bowling. HR Zoshia was from 2 of its weapons thumbnails being found in the beta, but they were unfinished. I actually don't know if they thought it was a good idea, but I think it sucked total dick." I think most people are in agreement there. So STR cannot confirm or deny that it was planned actually for Title Update 1 or if it was delayed or whatever. However, we are going to see what Rose thinks. Rose says, "It's unlikely to have been their plan from the beginning in my opinion, but was likely made at least as of the OBT, which again seems to have been 2023 or early 2024. In August 2024, we got a leak of almost every returning monster except for Gravios to a T, with one exception, which I will get into later. Everything else was accurate, but it did not specify that Laggy and Seregios were TUs. But it did say Mizutsune was the first TU. Zoshia in the OBT basically only existed in the same state as it did in launch, and that stuff was quite old comparatively, as in the files, the hunter rank point values for the monsters were different. The way the game progressed was also different. There was coding for a Lagiacrus story quest, likely the HR25 quest, which doesn't exist anymore. Laggy was originally having Rarity 6 armor, and so is Seregios in the files, and also the tempered apexes and gore, etc. were unlocked via HR. At HR 50 you got Uth, 60 you got Ray, 70 you got Nu, 80 you got Jin, 90 you got Gore, and at 100 you got Arkveld. In the final game, you just get all those tempered unlocks at HR 41+. The Gathering Hub was also in the files of the OBT, but was basically scant on anything aside from being the party room and the file names. My belief is that HR Zoshia, which take note is Chapter 6-2, not an extra mission like Mizu, Laggy, or Seregios, and the Gathering Hub were originally intended for base game, but early on they had to fit the December 2024 and then later February 2025 window, and decided to start cutting back things for Title Update 1 to focus on making the base game work. There were tons of issues I was told about. Jin Dahad was apparently super broken, and that thing we saw on the live show with him roaring over and over was just one part of it. Apparently, according to an inside source, that was one major reason for things being delayed. Jin had to be skipped in testing using a dev code because the quest broke the whole game. In my opinion, if the devs had their way, Title Update 2 would have been the launch of the game, not February. Question 8 was, there were also rumors that Laggy and Steve got pushed back. Were they planned to be title updates from the beginning, and once again, if so, how do we know that? What do you think of that as an intentional content rollout choice if this was true? Do you know if Capcom thought it was a good idea? Rose said, if you look at their armor data, their armor IDs are sorted right with Rathalos, Gravios, etc. Their armor was also fully modeled, even back as far as the OBT, and they had almost all their weapons. While even Rathian did not have all of her armor done yet, Rathalos didn't have all of his weapons. They were worked on rather early, but Laggy probably had tech issues with the underwater segment that needed to be worked out, so he was pushed back. I suspect Seregios was pushed back, not due to being incomplete, but basically to just go with Lagiacrus so the update would be more significant in content. In that mentioned leak from August 2024, Redacted was in that list of leaked monsters along with Mizu as a title update. I believe that title update 2 replaced Redacted, either pushing him back to a later title update or out of the game until the expansion. It's worth noting that he has a new model at the least. These files right now don't indicate that he's coming. As for other info, the Laggy nest was in the game the whole time too. We were able to free cam and see the nest from launch, and it was in the OBT called Lagiacrus Nest. There was tons of info for both of them that was there for a long time. Basically, if you remember how there was like almost a 4-month trailer drought between October to early February, we had reports of ice-breathing dragons being shown for Monster Hunter Wilds at the Game Awards. The Ice Shard trailer was supposed to be at TGA before the delays and reshuffles. Rather than delay the game, they opted to cut back content, meet the launch window given to them by Capcom's higher-ups. I imagine Lagiacrus would have originally started the trailers we got right before launch. I think that's why we also never got a proper Rathalos render either. I'm not saying you should believe one over the other. They clearly have different expertise and different viewpoints. And finally, question 9. We already have confirmation via roadmaps that there are going to be 4 title updates at minimum planned. You don't have to dive deep into anything, but I have heard murmurings of a 5th title update being planned. Is this a credible rumor in any way? STR answered, I think it's just common sense because World Iceborne and Sunbreak all had 5 TUs. Sunbreak's secret title update doesn't count. And there's also quest version numbers that cover title update 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I agree with you that it's common sense because given their trend, there is 5 title updates typically. However, you never know. They took forever to start rolling these title updates out, and Sunbreak only had and Base Rise only had a specific amount.
2.
And so, it's led to some anxiety, and so the them showing that there was going to be 4 was comforting to some. But I do find it interesting the concept of there being 5, and you do mention that there are also quest version numbers that cover TU1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What exactly does that mean? All right, so I'm looking at this, and I see where it says quest version.
Yeah.
Or quest type and everything.
Well, it's the drop down from version.
Gotcha.
The other stuff is like other categories. It's like version 1, and then there's like day 1 patch, and there's probably like some other. The other one is probably like the 1.5 title update, and the other one is probably like some other random like bug fix update or like just some other random update they put out. I remember. And then there's like 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where like the idea there was 5 title updates came from.
Yeah. Okay.
As you can see, it's pretty simple.
Now, for the sake of being 100%, this is always subject to change. Like if. Yeah. But there is at least some evidence that there are 5 title updates total in consideration.
Yeah. I think there's going to be 5, at least.
Rose says, basically what STR said. Right now the files only show 2 more additional monsters, but we believe the third of the TUs, probably 4, will be a crossover of some kind. Though, it could also be title update 5. We have no idea the order of the remaining content. That was it for all the questions of the interview. However, STR wanted to shout out all of his day ones, all of the people that he's interacted with, including his Chinese community. Rose wanted a very heartfelt shout out to the people that she knows and cares for. She wanted to shout out her partners and also the Leaks community as a whole and the people that have supported her. I can't really do this shout out any justice by reading it out myself. Please take a moment to pause and read these shout outs. You can just feel the gratefulness. Speaking of shoutouts though, I have people that I'm extremely grateful for. Thank you to everyone who has chosen to support me. With an extra special thanks to Akir, Funaloss, Monster Hunter, Sev for short, Impulsive Veins, and Mr. MH. You guys are rock stars. Thank y'all so much. And for everyone watching, thank you for watching. Stay meaty, my friends.
I've got dinner ready. Let him cook.